Hi, Catherine. I'm great. I'm great, thank you. It's starting to get wintry here in Ireland, so that's where I'm based. And yeah, winter's finally got us. So yeah, feeling that this morning, I have to say,
Oh,
sadly.
I'm still feeling a bit warm this morning. I was like, oh my goodness, when are we going to get those nice,
Yeah,
nice crisp mornings? So hopefully, if
I
you
know it's saying something when we're looking forward to the cold. Usually it's the other way around, so we'll take it.
I think I'm just absolute. I think I just really enjoy change. Like if something
Yeah,
is the same for too long, I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on, next thing.
yeah. On to the next thing for
Yeah,
sure.
by February, I'll be like, oh my goodness, when's spring coming? Come on.
Yeah. And then summer, that's usually the biggest countdown, isn't it? We're just like dying for the vitamin D to come through.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Tell me a little bit about Recruiter Insider and what you do.
Yeah, of course. So for anyone that doesn't know Recruiter Insider, a lot of what we do is we measure the candidate experience and the client experience across the whole entire hiring process. So it's just it's a platform that can really help you understand what's going really, really well in your hiring process, what's not working, and potentially actually costing you placements as well. But one of the nice things about Recruiter Insider and one of the key things that I'll chat about today is we actually also measure the experience that your clients or the clients that you're recruiting for give to your candidates and the impact that actually has on candidates, I suppose, keenness to accept roles then at the client as well. So you'll also understand who are your good clients, your good hiring managers, and who are actually sabotaging your efforts and not getting placements from. So we measure all of that for you in the background.
Wow, that sounds incredibly useful. Now, am I right in thinking that before you were at Recruiter Insider, you were working as a recruiter, and this was
Yeah,
data that you had access to, and so you kind of
exactly.
live both sides of this.
Completely, yes, Catherine. So I was actually working as a recruiter on a temp desk in Sydney. So I was living over there at the time, and Recruiter Insider was in the business from when I actually started in the role. And from the very beginning, it was so, over that kind of 3.5 years that I was there in the business before moving home, I got really good insights and got to use the data actually with clients to essentially show them again, I suppose, understand, show my clients that who I was working with, what I can do to help them improve their hiring process and essentially win more business, develop accounts, and all of that sort of thing. So the insights that come back are so, interesting in terms of you can kind of get a gut feel for who your good clients are, but actually seeing in the data what your candidates say can tell a totally different story. So yeah, it's great to be able to use it as a consultant, but now actually a lot of my role is working with agencies and trying to get them to maximize their usage of the data that they're actually receiving from their candidates and their clients all the time. Yeah.
Hey, oh yeah, it sounds so useful. I can absolutely see why Angela recommended you for today, with our topic being top tips for hiring managers. So
Yeah.
yes, today I noticed that you shared on LinkedIn, your post for today was your Recruiter Insider's Q3 Hiring Manager Insights report. So I'm going to see if I can put that on the screen, actually, what you shared, because there's some nice little um, stats on there as well. So hopefully, if I
Yeah.
choose the right,
Oh,
I choose the right thing to share.
yeah, that'd be helpful. And just to give everyone a bit of insight, we actually do an insights report every quarter, and there's some really interesting stuff that comes up. And I think it's changing because the market is so different now to maybe this time 12 months ago. It's what's coming up is really, really different, to be quite honest. And you'll see there from my post, even something that surprised me, that clients are wanting to do what we found 4.1 interviews for every placement that's made. So actually I thought it'd be a lot less. I thought there'd be, like, let's say 1-2 client interviews and then acceptances, but the data is showing us that actually on average there's 4.19 client interviews for every one placement just in September gone. So
So
I don't know
is
if that
that
will come as a
counting?
surprise. Go ahead.
Sorry, sorry. Is that
Okay,
counting
okay.
every interview, or is that just how many people were interviewed for the role?
It's actually counting every interview. So if you're a candidate going through a hiring process, it's likely you'll have gone through a minimum of 4 client interviews for every one placement. So I
Okay,
thought that was
great.
quite interesting. And I don't know, and it'd be good to for everybody to have a think about whether Maybe it's because hiring managers are being that little bit more careful with their hires. Maybe they're, trying to understand and make sure that they're getting the right person into the role. So is that why they're doing more and more client interviews before they make a decision and a placement? It's kind of hard to say, but it's definitely on the higher end from what we've seen in other quarters gone by. So it's interesting to see that. And that might be a talking point again for your hiring managers to say that that's the average, but maybe that could be a competitive advantage if you can make it 2 interviews potentially, rather than doing the 4 and putting candidates through that type of process. That's something to think about now as well, and a good value add for them to let them know that the average at the moment is around that 4 mark. Maybe that's something that you can work on to make it more attractive for candidates that you're working with as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a faster hiring process is always going to give you a competitive advantage, isn't it? Yeah, somebody else who's taking a long time to make a decision could well lose out on candidates. Yeah. So is this data global, or is this for a particular part of the world? Or
so this particular data then, Katharine, is UK and Ireland based. We do have an APAC insights report as well, and I can share that with anybody that's interested or who that might be a bit more relevant to. And it chats a lot now about kind of the post placement and the importance of actually, so the candidate is placed. And the role of the hiring manager then following the placement, so that you're not dealing with dropouts and that sort of thing. And you'll see there in the post, I mean, it was interesting to find that actually perm starters and perm candidates seem to be much happier with the onboarding experience than contractors. Okay. And then, when contractors are unhappy with that onboarding experience, what you'll find is that you're way higher risk of flight risks and dropouts and that sort of thing as well. So that's something. And I think as recruiters, sometimes we just work on the hiring process, but actually remembering if we're supporting hiring managers with that onboarding experience, we're also not dealing with dropouts and replacement guarantees and stuff like that as well. So I think, and I'm sure that comes up quite a lot with recruiters, but actually focusing and partnering with your hiring manager on the onboarding experience and what needs to be done can actually save you time, and in terms of having to deal with dropouts and flight risks and that sort of thing. So it's really interesting. Yeah.
And especially that stat around the contract hires as well. I mean, obviously bringing them on for key projects, stuff that's probably time critical, needs to get done. So yeah, not giving them as good an experience, isn't going to do you any favors, is it? No. Yeah, really interesting stuff today. Thank you so much for sharing this. So if anyone is struggling for inspiration today on a top tip for hiring managers, I'd say stop by Aisling's post, ask for the report, and go through and find something that you find interesting and share some insights with the hiring managers in your network. I think that's my top tip for you today.
Really. And just even on that, Katharine, one top tip that's a really easy one to share with hiring managers, and we see it coming up constantly in the data, is even, when your hiring managers are actually interviewing with your candidates, the lowest scoring question that we see coming back time and time again is that hiring managers aren't selling the benefits of the role. So they're not talking about the benefits of working for the company. They're not talking about the team culture and how that candidate would fit in, etc. And they're key things that candidates actually really want to know about. So if you're looking for top tips, one of the easiest ones to remind hiring managers of is actually, do they know the benefits of working for the business, and do they know how to sell them to candidates? Because if your hiring managers aren't selling them to your candidate that you put forward, the other interviews that they're going for are most likely doing it. And that's a key influencer when a candidate comes to accept a role, from what we can see.
Yeah, who would be better placed to sell a company than somebody who already works there? So really, the hiring manager should be poised to do this. So yeah. And
it's funny when you have the benefits, sometimes you actually forget. You think they're part of your day to day, so they even forget to mention them because they are different to what other people would experience in different companies. So actually, a lot of the time, hiring managers can somewhat take them for granted and forget that they actually are a benefit that candidates would really like to hear about. So even just setting that expectation when you're doing a job brief, etc., to say, do you actually know the benefits of the business? This is something that candidates really want to know at the moment. Whether that's kind of work from home policies or leave policies, like simple things like that, they're real differentiators in a market. So reminding your hiring managers to actually speak about them and sell them to their candidates can make a huge difference.
That's a fantastic tip. Great. Just having a look at the chat. Good morning, Angela. Hiya. Oh, enjoying your dog.
Hi, Angela.
Yeah, so each time we run a top tips prompt on Meet Your Recruiter Week, we collate all the tips that we get into an ebook. So if you share a good tip today, you may well end up in the ebook. So yeah, a little bit of lasting fame there. So we do have other ebooks on, I think, tips for candidates sort of in general, and also some tips for dealing with rejection. Did that on our Valentine's week because that seemed appropriate.
I love that.
If you'd like to download either of those ebooks, I'm sure Charlotte will pop a link in our chat here on Crowdcast, and if you're watching along on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, look out for the third ebook coming soon. All our tips for hiring managers. So that's something that you can share with hiring managers or new hiring managers that kind of come into your world, and they can get tips from recruiters everywhere taking part in Meet Your Recruiter Week. Great. Anything else you would like to impart this morning, Aisling?
No, I just thought even your post, Katharine, this morning about hiring managers actually having a little bit of a pipeline themselves was a really, really interesting angle to go at, because it's not something that I think, when a recruiter receives a job, often they think they're running with it, but actually what we see in the data a huge amount is actually it's a partnership, and actually, working together to get to the successful outcome is key. So I loved your post. That I think would be a really good thing to even chat about with the listeners today.
Yeah, I think this all came from a conversation years and years ago. I was sort of reasonably new to recruitment and sourcing, and a fellow sourcer, Ralph Mayer, I think he now works at LinkedIn, and yeah, he was just talking about, this is something that he talks about with his hiring managers, or did talk about with his hiring managers when he was recruiting, about sort of having a top three at all times, just sort of thinking, who would I hire if I could? And sort of nurturing that relationship, understanding where that person is in their career journey, whether it would be appropriate for them at some point to join your team, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and yeah, just kind of being ready should the need to hire arise. You've got three people to tell your recruiters about, or to approach yourself, and yeah, that was always stuck with me as really good advice. Something I've talked to hiring managers about over the years. Yeah, just encouraging a little bit of talent pipelining for their own teams, really.
Yeah, of course. And even as a recruiter, I suppose it gives you a little bit of insight into who the hiring manager thinks would work really well on the team, and being able to actually speak about a particular candidate, whether or not that they will be right for the role, or they're available, or all of those things. But as a recruiter, you'll actually get an understanding of who the hiring manager thinks would like in the team, and you're able to chat in detail about exactly why, and that will make your job even a lot easier when you're going out to market potentially to find the perfect candidate. The standard, what exactly they're looking for, and you can always run with it from there. So I think that was a super idea in terms of just building that relationship with your hiring manager, rather than just taking a job brief and going with it, actually delving into those types of questions and the type of people who've worked really well in the team, with that team previously. I think is a really good starting point for sure.
Yeah, I always find when I'm taking a briefing, being able to have a conversation about a real person is so helpful, because it stops that laundry list of, like, a sort of wish list of, oh, this is the perfect candidate to join our team, and it's always this incredibly long wish list of things, and that person probably doesn't exist anywhere. They're a unicorn or a purple squirrel, and yet, whereas discussing a real person, it's like, okay, what do you like about this profile? What makes you think that this person is perfect for the team? Or perhaps, what gives you doubt that they might not be perfect for the team? It's all really useful insights, and you can see their career progression. What companies have they worked for? If this person isn't available, can we find somebody similar? Yeah, discussing real people in intake meetings. one of the most useful things for me, definitely.
To save you a lot of time down the line for sure as well. And I think even I suppose just touching on from that, one of the lower scoring questions that we have from a candidate experience point of view is candidates understanding a clear hiring process and timeframes. Okay, so when it comes to taking a job brief, it's really important to actually work with your hiring manager and get them to define what the time frame is and the hiring process in full, because candidates want to know that from the outset, and we're finding from the data that when they don't actually know that, they and it's chopping and changing, and it's not as smooth and set out from the very beginning, they're actually losing interest in and looking elsewhere for jobs as well. So just even from that very outset and discussing types of candidates, actually understanding and educating your hiring manager to say we actually need to know the entire hiring process as clearly as possible from the outset, so we can set that expectation with candidates and not lose them down the line then as well.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think if I was entering a process that might be 4 or more interviews, I'd want to know that going in, so that
Yeah, exactly. And you're talking about you're talking about candidates investing a lot of time and energy in researching companies and different things like that. So if they know it from the outset, I think that's completely different. So it's something definitely to divine and work with your hiring manager on from the very beginning.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, well, before we go, I'm going to share some hashtag suggestions for today. Sorry, Angela, I completely forgot to do this yesterday, so I apologise. Hopefully, everyone found the link that we've added in the chat to find the hashtag suggestions. So let me just quickly share with you my screen for this one. So this is a little project that we've worked on, taking lots and lots of hashtags, phrases, from the recruitment world, and just checking, is that a hashtag that people are using on LinkedIn, and how many followers does it have? Then we've kind of gone through and said, which ones would be appropriate for which days of Meet Your Recruiter, and then sort of chosen some of the top followed hashtags. So for today, not all of these will be relevant to everyone's posts, obviously. So you'd want to pick something that does work for you. But obviously, we're offering advice to hiring managers. So best advice was a good one with 7.6 million followers. One I want to draw your attention to is the one at the bottom, which is hiring managers. So that one's got 15.5 thousand followers. If you were to just take the S off and go with hashtag hiring manager, that one's only got 4.7 thousand followers. So you want to go with the plural to get the biggest chance that someone in your network is following that one, I think. It's interesting, actually, using hashtags. I've really started to get into checking whether or not it's something people are using, whether or not it's something people are following before I use them, because it's so easy to choose something that just doesn't seem to have any audience. So yeah, things like hiring manager versus hiring managers is sort of a perfect example of that. It would be really easy to just use hashtag hiring manager and miss out on some potential audience. So yeah, that's today's suggestions. I would also like to draw your attention to tomorrow's, just in case you're planning your post for tomorrow. I will be joined by Rohit tomorrow morning to talk about topical things. So tomorrow you'll be sharing something topical that's going on in your industry. So tomorrow we've got these suggestions for you. So things like business, future of work. Again, this one was really difficult because we don't exactly know what industries everyone is working in, and nor would it really be beneficial to share just sort of industry keywords here, because it would only be relevant to some of you. So we've taken our best guess on what might be relevant for tomorrow. But obviously, some of these are quite low. So I'd say what you might want to do is, if you're posting about, your sector, your niche, maybe try out a few hashtags of your own. For example, if you're working in the education sector, you might want to check, okay, how many followers does hashtag education have on LinkedIn? So,
Katharine, how can you actually check the followers of hashtags? I'm not even sure where you'd start.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the link to the Meet Your Recruiter hashtag in the chat. So you can see that the URL there, it's linkedin.com/feed/hashtag/ then the hashtag. So if you
Yeah.
wanted to check a different one, all I would do is replace the text "Meet your recruiter" on the address bar in your browser with what you want to check. So if you wanted to check
Oh, yeah.
#education, I'd just replace "Meet your recruiter" in that URL with "education," press return, or enter, or whatever you press on your keyboard, and you will see a page for the phrase or the word that you've chosen to put in there.
That's amazing. I'd never actually thought of doing that before, because like you said, I would just start doing hashtags, that I thought were relevant, but actually being able to see which ones are the most followed would be way more helpful. That's awesome.
Lovely, good. I was just trying to think if there was something. Yes, I wanted to put the link to your post in the chat today as well, because if people want to go and comment and get that report, they can do that there. So I've just put that in the chat as well.
Great.
So
Thanks, Katharine. That's
well,
awesome.
go comment. Lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully you'll join us on the daily workout again in the future.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me. I hope that was helpful.
See you again soon. Right.
Take care.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.